I am so excited to be talking to you today about Indigo Kids because Indigo Kids are kind of taking over the world. I think that's kind of the best way to put it is that's what they were meant to do and that's what they're doing. And I'm going to be talking about all that and some other information as well, but just kind of like some ways of kind of understanding like who they are, why are they here, and what is their purpose. Hi, my name is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman. I'm an intuitive psychic medium outside of the Houston area, and I am so excited to be with you today and really be talking to you about what is an indigo child. It can be indigo child, children, kid, whatever it is, it's all the same terminology. But I will tell you, this is something that the term came from someone who was really working with a lot of kids and were noticing their aura colors were all about the same, that indigo color. And indigo is usually the kind of like the color of like our throat chakra, our third eye, and our higher power, our crown chakra, all kind of mixed in and blended together. And so that's what they were kind of talking about, is this mixture of aura energy coming in and making some changes. Now, I will tell you, a lot of times these are people that were considered, even as a very young age, considered to be an old soul. And I will tell you, the majority of people kind of really don't know when they started coming on the planet, because to me, it's one of those, a lot of times I hear like late 60s, 70s, and 80s, but I kind of feel like they've been here for a while, and it's kind of like the numbers started out really, really slowly, and then have slowly increased. But people were actually seeing the increase literally in the late 60s, early 70s, when a lot of these old soul kids were coming around. One of the things I think is also kind of like one of those like interesting things is that they have this desire, almost this requirement to kind of shake things up. They're the type of kids that like say things off the cuff, or they'll just say, blurt out something. You're just kind of like, okay, it's truthful, but we normally wouldn't say it that way. They are kind of meant to kind of like change the rules and kind of change how we deal with things in our world. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I will tell you that a lot of times they come in to kind of bring us to a new level of peace and harmony in our world. And I think it's one of those, like, some of them have kind of lost their way, which is normally what happens when energies like this come on the planet. So some of them are like straight on purpose, some of them are slightly on purpose, and then some are like, I don't even know where the frick you are, kind of like energy with things. But I found like 14 ways to kind of like, what is their traits that you can kind of follow. And some of these you might be like, yes, that's me. And some of them you might be like, no, it's not me at all. So this is kind of one of those interesting energies. But I guarantee you, if you are a true indigo child, you are going to have a majority of these. So I would say out of the 14, you're talking like 11 or more. You're going to have these in some aspect of others. And then you may kind of realize like, okay, I would have this one, but I don't think this way. So that's kind of like that new kind of like, oh, maybe I've got to adjust my thinking a little bit on this. So I will tell you, kind of the first one is you have this spiritual awakening. And this is kind of like one of those, like feeling it from a very early age. This is kind of like that, don't really trust religions all the time, or I'll deal with religions for a period of time because mom and dad or grandma or grandpa make me go to church. But it's one of those, I have like real questions, not just like little bitty questions like, wow, these are really interesting questions. So that's kind of like, wow, tapping into kind of some kind of a greater understanding. And a lot of times they will even say things out of the Bible that are going like, that's a misquote, or that's not the way it's supposed to be, or that's not the intention that it was set in there. And so they're kind of like bringing that intentional awareness to kind of things. So it's kind of like, okay. The next one is kind of like almost this like, they chose Earth to come here. Now, everybody chooses Earth to come and be on this planet, but a lot of times, like, these are kind of like, almost like, I'm going to be picked first. It's one of those, like, if we were picking teams, you know, like when you're in elementary school, this one's going to be on my team and this one's going to be on my team, that sort of thing. These are really very confident very almost like emboldened kind of energy, like I know I'm a better soccer player than Tommy, or I know I'm a better soccer player than Susie, or whatever else. Like this very dominant energy, like yes, I know I'm meant here for this something else. And they are kind of like this drawn to kind of really bring a positive change, and they don't always, when they're younger, always want to be leaders, but a lot of times like they are, or they're kind of the leader from the back of the group. They're kind of leading everybody from the back of the group, like, hey, why don't we do this? Hey, why don't we do this? And they seem like a lone voice, but a lot of times they're really not, because the other ones around them are really supporting their energy, but they don't want to be like designated the leader, but a lot of times they are. And like I said, they're leading from the pack, not necessarily anything else. Kind of the next one is they have psychic abilities. So this is number 3. They have psychic abilities, and this is psychic abilities that they're almost like born with. And these are children that come in with this usually hugely strong telepathic energy, and it's almost like you have to turn that off to be able to learn how to communicate like through your voice, because they telepathically communicate with everyone and everything around them. So it's kind of like, why do I need to go back to that? And so that can bring up a little frustration with them, is like it takes them a little bit longer sometimes to communicate. But I guarantee you, usually their telepathic abilities, kind of a lot of their intuitive abilities, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, are really strong, but also like the clairvoyance, empathic abilities, where they're really empathizing with other people around them. And I think that's kind of one of the energies that can like falter with them. Like they may be empathically connecting to one person when they really should be connecting to another. Number 4 is they are very passionate about different things. They will take on things that may not be something that you would like, well, this is a really interesting one, but they can be like very focused and very passion driven on what is really important to them. Like, this is what I want to solve, or this is what I want to do, and I'll do whatever it takes. These are usually like the kids that like make their own companies, kind of do their own thing, or they really kind of go like, this is the education I require so I can keep moving forward. And they are going to find the balance. Anything that doesn't balance for them is going, in this passion driven area, is going to feel them kind of like faltering at times. They really nurture the traits in themselves to kind of really bring connections to others. So it's kind of like bringing that really strong, passionate connection. So if they are really passionate about making a t-shirt company, they're going to find other people that are doing the same thing, and they're going to kind of make their own community. That's what I'm talking about. Number 5 is they are headstrong. Oh my gosh, this is an understatement of the world. Like, they are headstrong is like unbelievable. I almost consider them a bull, even if they're not Tauruses. They're like crazy strong. They are on a mission, and a lot of times they are so focused on this mission, and they're so like, do this. It's almost like everything else goes by the wayside because they're on their mission to do whatever it is. And usually they don't back down very easily. Like, if they can't figure it out, they may take a slight step back, or just a pause for a second and kind of like, okay, now I need to figure this one out again. But they are very headstrong in what they desire to do. And this can kind of come into like number 6, which is kind of like feeling like a lost soul. Like, they really don't recognize that they are being so overdriven or so headstrong with other things that people around them are kind of like, why are you acting like this? Or why aren't you doing this? And it's because it's like they are headstrong on that passion or their mission, and they're so focused on that everything else goes by the wayside. So you're kind of like, oh, interesting. I mean, and this can be starting something very young age, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years of age, starting their own business or starting their own ideas of doing things. And I guarantee you, a lot of them have that like lost soul energy of like, I want to be a business owner. And you're kind of like, interesting. Like, what do you want to start a business at age 6? They're going to figure it out. All you've got to do is support them in this. Number 7 is they are meant to make changes to society. And I guarantee you that is kind of like one of their major things to do. They want to do it with their companies. They want to do it with their money. They want to do it with their influence. And so therefore you have a lot of people on social media like, I want to be an influencer. I want to do this. I want to change things. And this is kind of a great way of kind of like bringing this energy in. Business and society really kind of grows into this more chaotic energy as they keep coming up and kind of taking over the reins from other people, because they are not the ones that are meant to fit in. They're totally not meant to fit in at all, and they are going to be making their own changes. And how do I want to run a business, not compared to what you tell me to do, but how I want to run the business or how I want to do things. And you're always going to have them like wanting to find like a better way or a more efficient way of doing things, or a way to honor more people when they do things. So you're going to really see that energy in their energy a lot. So it's like, wow, this is an interesting one. So number 8 is being very creative. And I will say this is a very creative side of life, and they are musically or artistically like gifted in many different ways. And it's kind of like their outlet for what's going on around them. So it's kind of like interesting. And I will tell you, this is kind of like they're nurturing their own abilities to kind of like break away from things for a little bit and kind of like, let me do crafting, or let me do artwork, or let me play my music and kind of like clear my head as I'm moving forward in all of this energy. That can be like a yes for them. But I guarantee you they have got to have a creative outlet, something that they really, really enjoy, kind of one of those almost meditative states. And it can be almost anything that they love doing. The next one is they are kind of, I guess this is number 9. They really want to overturn like our system. They are willing to fight against the government, against what they feel is an oppression, a violence in any way. They are the ones that are going to be stepping out in a lot of different ways of kind of making changes to our systems. And this is kind of like anything that's kind of like antiquated or doesn't work or kind of doesn't create like this harmonious atmosphere. Now, this is where I kind of get that some of them are thinking that they're changing or making modifications or kind of upgrades to things, and sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. And it's one of those, I know at the end it'll be okay, but sometimes like this chaotic middle is kind of like you're getting kind of like in my grandmother's age, they would say like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's kind of like you're getting rid of like everything, and you should kind of be really careful about what is working and what is not working. This is something that I also feel like they really don't have a lot of patience with as well. This is something that they want to make massive changes, massive things going on, and it's one of those, and that kind of system doesn't always just like turn. It takes time to kind of turn that around. And this is where I kind of get that sometimes they think like one person is able to make those changes, but it's actually another person that's actually motivating those changes. So it's kind of like, oh, where is this change coming in from? And that's something to be really aware of. Next one is number 10, and I will say this is kind of really questioning authority. They are going to be very rebellious in their energy. They are going to be very skeptical of kind of like the status quo and how things have been going, and they want to make changes very quickly. And I will say this is kind of usually where they kind of fall into trouble, because they think what they're doing is like changing or fixing the system, but they're really breaking the system more down. And sometimes that's what we have to do, kind of like that Pluto energy of like, we need to break things down before we can build things back up. And I will tell you, this is really one of those that the way they're trying to change things comes in, and it's like they're ready for change now. Like they want everything to flip around on a dime, but it's one of those that may not be the way it really has to happen or can happen. But I guarantee you there is a strong desire to make some changes in this area, and they're always questioning that authority. Like, why do they have authority over me? Even if they're little kids, like I don't want him to be my boss, or I don't want her to be my boss, that sort of thing. So even as little kids, they kind of come in with that. Number 11, I will say, is they have a hugely strong intuition. Now, intuition can be an amazing asset for people, and it can really change our world and kind of give us a deeper insight into what's going on and kind of give us that insight. But I will tell you, the majority of people that have a really, really strong sense of intuition don't always follow through with it. They'll feel something, but they're like, I'm going to put that to the side. Or they feel something else and they kind of put that to the side. And it's like, you really got to listen to all of it, because it's a step-by-step thing. It's not just like, here, do this one thing and we're finished. It's kind of like, do this and then you'll get the next set of instructions, and then do this and you'll get the next set of instructions. So that's kind of like, but you really have to kind of work this energy slowly. Kind of number 12 is they really do have high expectations for themselves and other people around them. They are almost always encouraging others to make changes, or why don't you start your own business, or why don't you start a business that does that, or why don't you do this. So they're always encouraging others to kind of step out of that normal society kind of thing. Well, I'm too young to do that. No, you can do it anyway. And you'll see that a lot with like people like encouraging. I saw a video a couple of days ago of a young girl who at like age 16 or 17 started her own real estate company with her parents. And that's what I'm talking about, is like, as long as they have the support, like there's nothing they can't conquer. But it's one of those like, and she was encouraging other people like, you can do this as well. And so that encouragement, and that also comes in with the social media as well, because they're like, let's do this all together. I will tell you kind of the one thing that all of them kind of really have in common is this huge frustration with things. And I will tell you, this is kind of like this frustration with not always seeing like the big picture. They're only, like I said, they're really hyper focused on one part of it, but they're not seeing like the whole vision of things. So it's almost like I'm focusing on this quadrant, but there's changes everywhere else, and they sometimes can get overwhelmed by all of that as they kind of like, I want to change this part, or this is my section to change, not really realizing that all the sections have to change at the same time. Patience is something that they really have to work on, because they want things to change very quickly. So they can get this frustration or this anxiety with things like, things are not changing as fast as I would like, or they're not moving as quickly as I would like. And I will tell you, it's kind of like that independence energy with them of like moving things slowly. Now, I will tell you that most indigos have this amazing energy and they want to make some changes, but I guarantee you they can get stepped off that path very easily, because they are influenced by others like, this is how to make a change, or this is how to do this, and they're thinking like, wow, this is great, I can do this. But a lot of times, like, if the other person isn't following their own intuition, it's not working. So it's like everybody has to follow their own intuition of what they need to fix, change, or modify themselves. And I will tell you, usually they have this very, very, very brave energy of like, I'm just ready to take on the world. And that would be my number 14, is kind of like, they have this brave, strong energy. Like, even if no one is behind them, they are going to charge forward and wanting to make changes and upgrades. This is something that you're going to be like, wow, this is amazing. These kind of people, and I guarantee you they are all different ages and sizes and everything in between, really want to make changes to our world, make changes to what's coming up. And I guarantee you they are going to be one of the last people standing on this earth, because it's one of those, they are going to be here for the long haul. They are going to be here to make some huge changes. So that's kind of like, yes, awesome for our indigos. And indigos really have this amazing energy and amazing power within themselves, that they are ready to take on the world to make our world a better place. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.